morning.
Well, hello there.
That was kind of abrupt, but want to wish everybody a happy Super Tuesday. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing all right. Uh, had some had a bird fly. We had that bird fly in. Apparently, it came back for another visit, and so I had to
Oh,
chase it out of here.
oh my
And then the
goodness.
laptop wouldn't cooperate. So yeah, it's been fun trying to get this started.
Get this party started. We've been finding some dead birds around my place, and I don't know
Oh,
what.
that's not good.
We called TWRA, and they told us that there might be some avian flu in the area.
Oh
Um,
Lord, that's no good.
yeah, so basically, we've
I
lost a
don't want
couple
no.
of. And then we found a dead bird, pheasant, actually out in the yard the other day, and it was clipped on its beak, which is normal for a hunting range. We do have a hunting area down here below us, but I could not find any bullet hole or anything in the bird. It was a clean bird, but it was deceased, and I bagged it up as they told me to do, and they said they would uh, possibly retrieve the bag, but it sounded to them like it was avian, and they told us not to buy any chickens until a few months from now. So that was kind of interesting. So I just hope that everybody is protecting their chickens, but it's very easy. Your chickens can get it. It doesn't take a whole lot. It can just be a bird flying over that poops down into the cage or the area if you've got free range chickens, and they can catch it. So it doesn't take a whole lot for that avian flu to take hold. Now, avian flu does not mean that your chickens will die. According to them, they still have a pretty good chance of survival. But if your chicken, it's just like humans, if your chicken's old or has weaknesses, they can succumb. And I think that's maybe what happened to our first chicken that passed away back during the bad weather. But enough about chickens.
And bird poop.
Bird flu. All right. Well, we hope everyone is having a great day. I hope everybody got to vote today. The polls closed here at 8:00.
I voted today.
Yeah.
Leslie voted today, so we did our civic duty.
Well, that's amazing. I hope everybody got to do that. And then we get to do this again. Of course, we do have some city elections coming up for the city of Maynardville and the city of Plainview. I'm not sure about Luttrell. Are you sure, or do you know anything about
No,
Luttrell?
it's just Maynardville and Plainview, and not many people have picked up petitions, or the election commission hasn't updated their website because it still says the same thing that it said beginning of February. So, and if that holds true, there's not many people interested in running for any office.
That's sad. I hope that's not the case. I hope that is just a poor management of a website.
I just checked it like an hour ago, so it's not been updated, not one little single bit since the beginning of February.
And this was a county-wide election today.
Yeah, well, the the primary for the president, yes, but the upcoming city and the two cities is what I was referring to.
Yes, but what I'm saying is,
and as far as the county election. The county election in August, there's only 2 petitions been picked up. So, according to the website, anyway, and that's Randy Turner and David Cox.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we discussed about some other issues. We're not going to go over it again, but we're going to get into a little bit about wheel taxes tonight. But basically, we could have had the wheel tax referendum for Union County if they had waited. We could have had that voted on this election without any extra cost to the citizens. But of course, we had to be lied to and told that it was going to cost $45,000, and we had to have a special election. But don't say I told you so.
Well, you know,
The
we didn't
reason
have enough signatures. Didn't you know that?
Well, anyway, we welcome
Uh,
everybody to the podcast. Please like, share, or subscribe, and be sure to like our Rumble channel and our YouTube. We're really trying to get those channels built up because Facebook, as you all know, something bad happened out in Facebook land today, and the kibosh got put on everybody's account, from my understanding. What say you, Jason?
well, that's what the news said. I seen a meme earlier, and it was a picture of Zuckerbucks, and had comments on it that said, "Don't make me treat you badly again," or something like that, or "Don't make me punish you again," or something like that. And I just thought that was hilarious. But as you said, remember, like, share, comment. We appreciate it. And before we get too far into anything, I wanted to ask for prayer for a few people. Miss Barbara England and her family. They suffered a loss the other day over in the Paulette community. It's Barbara England's nephew. So remember her in prayer, and also remember our 4th District County Commissioner, Danny Cook, who had surgery today, kidney cancer. And my understanding, the last update I saw, the surgery he had today went well, and they believe they got it off without damaging the kidney. So, but keep them in prayer. It's a long way of recovery after that and that kind of thing. So, I do ask for prayer for those folks.
Absolutely. Well, we're trying to we've got a little trip planned to Nashville tomorrow morning. Jason and I and Leslie and everybody that's going has got to be in halls by 7 a.m. So we're going to try to have a pretty quick live tonight. We can kind of go into details about some of this stuff on our next live. When is that going to be, Jason? Have we earmarked a time? Is that next week?
We did, but I don't have it in front of me because it's on the calendar in the house.
I believe it's next Tuesday. Yeah, it's next Tuesday.
Probably so, because we didn't schedule any. This is just a surprise. Hello, surprise podcast tonight. It wasn't actually scheduled. So
let me explain to everybody why it was not scheduled, so everybody doesn't think we're completely crazy. Normally, we go to Nashville every Monday on a Tuesday. Well, this particular month, it was different. It was on a Wednesday. So we would have scheduled it had we known, but we weren't aware of the difference of the day. So we just never changed it. But next Tuesday, the 12th, we'll be on back on, and we'll go into detail. We're probably going to do we're going to be covering tonight, the results of tonight, as well as some other county commission issues. Tonight, we're just going to in the spirit of Super Tuesday, we're going to go over some things that were voted on today by we the people, and the possible outcomes of those things, as well as some highlights from the last county commission meeting. And I will say at least one or two highlights. We're not going to have time to cover them all tonight, so we're just going to cover the top crust, so to speak. So with that being said, Jason, what do you want to start with? We've got the Claiborne County potential wheel tax that the citizens got to speak out on, and we're going to know probably the outcome of that here in a few hours, maybe hopefully sooner. Do you want to start with that one, or do you want to start?
I'm hoping they voted that down, because if they didn't, then Union County is going to follow suit. I'm afraid. But
yeah. Do you want to start with what are you going to start on? Because I was going to hit on the food bank issue and the Claiborne County wheel tax.
Well, you can start on whatever you want, but I'll keep looking down, and I keep looking down because I am following the news here, so I can update everybody that's watching the podcast as these states are announced. So far, Trump has won Alabama, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, and Oklahoma.
And so Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia. So I'm
Wow.
trying to, something I just told Leslie there. I thought was funny. Uh, Pretty much soon after the poll closed, Trump was announced to be the winner of Tennessee. Okay. What was funny to me about it was it took like another 15, 20 minutes for them to announce Biden was the Democratic winner in Tennessee. And I thought that was funny because Biden was the only one basically on the ballot in Tennessee as far as the Democrat side. And so it was just funny to me that it took that much longer to announce that he won Tennessee. So anyways,
Maybe,
that's
maybe,
just a little side note.
maybe they
But
had to drive by some cemeteries and grab some extra votes.
you're awful.
I'm
But hey,
terrible.
folks, like I said, I'll watch it and I'll keep everybody updated as I get updated here, just so we don't have to start flipping channels and all that kind of stuff as far as trying to keep up with who's winning what. But also, hey, like Stephany said, we've got that trip tomorrow. Hey, if you want to come, I'm sure there's still room on the bus. So just meet us at the Food City at 7 a.m. and we'll go down to the Capitol together and have a good time. And I hope I see some of you there.
Yeah,
I've
we'd
I've
love to have.
invited a bunch. I'm hoping to see several. Even if it's your first time and we've never met in person, I'm looking forward to just the friendship and everything else. Just to this be my third trip and it's been a good time every time. So just come down.
Yeah.
Doesn't cost you nothing, and you know we'll feed
It's
you
a
and a free bus ride.
it's a wonderful thing for those of you who've not been on one of these trips with other patriots, other conservatives. It's a great time. I mean, it's if you've got the time, and it sounds like an old a beer commercial. If you've got the time, so if you've got the time, folks, or if you can make the time to come down and stand with us on school choice, we have seen, I think it's 3 different legislative verbiages on that bill. And so we're not sure exactly which one they're going to go with, but we've made it clear that if there's any strings attached, we're out. But we do believe that something needs to change, and we need to have the decision for education needs to be with the parents and the child. And we have failing schools in many cases. Now, I was actually over in Anderson County today talking with some parents who basically have wonderful public schools, and they were like, well, we've got some of the best schools in the state. I mean, I can't argue with them. They do. They have wonderful state. I'm not sure how their indoctrination monitor is over there, but I know as far as the education, they do really well on their test scores. So they're a little bit skewed. I'm sure that's going to be a little more skewed than say Union County, which they've not done so well. So we believe that should have a say in part of the tax dollars because, folks, it's the money that is being spent in public education. A lot of the concerns I heard today were, well, that will defund part of public education. But our understanding is that some of the tax or most of the tax dollars will still go, even if there's an empty seat created by a vacancy of a child leaving the public schools. So this is something that is going to be worked out over the next few years. And this is going to be kind of a, I guess you'd say, pilot kind of thing to where they have to work out all the bugs and everything over the next couple of years to determine what they need to change or what they need to adjust or whatever. What say you, Jason?
Well, I actually spoke to some folks in Anderson County on school choice over the past week or so, and I actually talked to one particular gentleman, and he actually worked for Anderson County Schools. He worked in Oak Ridge Schools, and And he actually told me, even though he worked for the school system, that he had no interest in sending his kids to those public schools, and he actually homeschooled all his children. So that tells you a lot right there. Even though, he was part of that school system, he had no desire to send, and he was actually going to try to come on the trip, but he can't come with us tomorrow. He hopes if there's another one, he can come to it. But he called me yesterday evening and was telling me how much he supports what we're trying to do and that kind of thing. So that just speaks a lot for the way public school systems are currently. And he said that he's been, and he's an older gentleman, and he's been in the public school system for, I think he told me 20 years or something like that. He's been there a long time, and he's just, he doesn't agree with it, but he's got to have a job. And like I said, that's why he said that, he homeschools his children, or did homeschool his children. So that says a lot, to me anyway.
Well, we also we've heard from people on the local level, even a school board member, who basically said that they couldn't go along with the school choice, and their reason was that they felt like even though this was potentially something that might work, they were afraid that, or they had been talked to by people in the homeschool, I guess the homeschool area, had told them their concerns was that once they got this in, that they would change it and start attaching strings to homeschools, which they don't want. But, the problem with all this is they can do that anyway. They can do that through the public schools. They can change legislation every day. So to me, that argument is a little bit, and I'm saying this respectfully, it's a little bit weak, because you're not taking into account all the things. If you're just going by what can happen, think about what can happen also under the federal system. The federal system is, that's the problem, okay? The state of Tennessee is trying to rein this in to where this can be more fair for our children who are falling through the cracks of the system. We have children that are graduating from high school that can't read and write, and something has got to give. So just to push back completely and put blinders on and use the excuse, well, something may happen to me, you're dealing with that anyway. So I don't know how fighting the school choice, and just my opinion, because I know we have some homeschoolers out there that don't necessarily agree with it because of the strings and whatnot, and we don't either if those strings became a part of the issue. But as far as saying, well, we think that it could change and evolve into something we don't want, well, the federal has changed into something you don't want either. So what's your solution? And they also say, well, there's also freedom of education already. There's already school choice. Well, that's true to a degree. Yes, anybody can, decide to make the sacrifice, take their kid out of public school, put them in homeschool. But the problem is we have parents, like single parent homes, where there is no option for that parent because they have to work. They're the sole provider. Now, there's, I'm sure, pod schools and things like that. But, I just still haven't heard anybody really explain to me what the alternatives would be.
I seen some of the comments on some of the polls that we've had out and that kind of thing about school choice. And these particular comments from this one particular person just ticked me off. I just thought it was one arrogant answer. And to talk about, well, if people want to send their school or kids to a private school or to a pod school or something like that, then they just need to work harder and earn that money and do it that way. And that just royally ticked me off. And it ticked me off because, number one, I always try to give a voice to those that are sometimes voiceless and that kind of thing. And I hope y'all know that by now. But it really made me mad because not everybody is fortunate as some of these people. And apparently this person just seems like they're just better than everybody else, I guess. That's just my only conclusion is why you can make a comment like that. Because not everybody is as well to do. And there's some people out there like single parents that, are already working 2 jobs, just trying to put ends meet and to feed their family and buy the medicines and pay the bills. So to say an arrogant comment like, well, they just need to work harder if they want to do that. Well, they don't have the choice all the time. And not only do they not have the choice, but what if that's their only option? It's either to leave a child that's, failing in public school, that's being left behind, that's being bullied because they're being left behind or failing and, being picked on. What's wrong with giving people the opportunity to have an option to take their child out of a system like that and to put them somewhere else and not have to worry about, because ultimately it's our money, right? It's our money that's paying for our students to go to these public schools. So if I choose as a person to take my child out and put them in a private school or whatever kind of school, Christian school, whatever kind of school I choose I want to send my child to, what is wrong with me requiring or asking for some of my money back in order to help pay for that?
Right.
That's where I stand on this school choice issue, separated from all the other issues that I already have experienced in my own life with my own children in these public schools, especially in Union County. So again, it's my money. I've paid my taxes. Why should I be bullied into or pigeonholed into giving all my money to public schools with no option? And that, like I said, that's where I'm at. Give me the option to spend my money where I want to spend my money. You don't have to agree with it. I don't care if you agree with it, you don't agree with it. Hopefully you agree with it, but ultimately it should be it should have always been the parent's choice. Always been. It shouldn't have been the government's demand, because it just shouldn't be. The government works for us. We don't work for the government. And I keep saying that all the time. They work for us. We don't bow down to them. And that's what kind of has gotten out of control with the public school system is, well, your child's been absent for more than 5 days. Now we're going to send you truancy, all this stuff. Okay, well, I get it. But if my child is not doing well, and we all know the problems we have had with bullying in Union County, right? We've covered it. We've been on the news, the Channel 8 and Channel 10. All of these news have been down here covering it. We've seen the fights on Facebook and Instagram. We've seen all this. And so, Gesundheit. What is wrong with us having the option to say, okay, enough's enough. I don't want my child to be in that kind of environment anymore. I have an option. I want my child to go to Miss Smith over here that has decided to start her own school. And yeah, it's in the basement of a church, but I don't care, because that quality education would be a whole lot better than the crappy education. I almost said another word. The crappy education that they might be getting in the public school. And on top of that, the icing on the cake is my child's not getting bullied and picked on anymore. So that's another option or another idea that why I think the parent should have the option. And again, you don't have to agree with me if you don't want to, but let's have an open mind and an open discussion about it. Stop being so arrogant and conceited just because you might have a little bit of money in your pocket. Everybody's not that fortunate.
Well, and the other thing is the people that are in the homeschool, you all deserve to have your money back. And, the concerns of, well, they could change down the road. Well, if it starts to, if they start trying to change it, that's when you have to rise up like good
Right.
patriots and fight back. I mean, just like we did.
And ultimately, that's ultimately the responsibility for any of this. I don't care if it's school choice, if it's defunding the police, if it's whatever the cause is. Ultimately, the people that are responsible for making change happen is us. It's us with our voting. It's us with our activism. It's us getting out there, making sure our voices is heard. It's us getting out there and making sure that we're making the phone calls, the emails, showing up at meetings. It's our responsibility. It's our fault that things happen that shouldn't happen because we don't get out there and actually do something about it. And I talk about, when I point at you, I'm pointing, 4 more fingers back at me. So I'm just as guilty. So I'm not saying, picking on anybody, but I'm just saying that ultimately the blame and the fault lands in the citizens' laps for not doing what we should be doing. And that's investigating the issues, investigating the candidates, and making sure that these candidates and representatives and senators and mayors and all these other folks actually hear from us instead of just, and I hear the argument all the time, and this ticks me off too. Well, we elected them to represent us. Yes, we elected them to represent us, but they can't represent us if they don't hear from us to know what we want them to do. And that's an issue. We just elect them and we say, okay, you make the decision for us. That's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work by us getting in contact with our representative and telling them and demanding what we want. And that's where I'm at, and that's what I've been doing.
It's like a business. Okay. So when you all are the boss. Okay. We, the people, are the boss. So if you had a business, if you opened up a business, and you hired a manager to run that business, and that manager took your beautiful business, and instead of building it up and making it profitable, the manager started goofing off or making bad decisions. Well, you're the owner of that. You're the person that has to control that manager's actions. So would you allow that manager, just because he represents your business, to make you bankrupt because, oh, you hired him to do it, but he's not doing it, so I'm just going to sit here and let it bomb? I don't think so. So that's kind of where we've gotten to as citizens. Sometimes we just don't hold our elected officials accountable, and then we get in messes, and then we wake up and go, well, what happened? I thought I had an elected official representing me, and now we're in bankruptcy here. So yeah, that's how it works.
Absolutely. Just an update. Arkansas and Maine have just been called for Trump, and Vermont is dead even between Haley and Trump. So that one's going to be a rough one for Vermont. But absolutely, you get the same, going back to our conversation, the same problem is, we fought the property tax increase like crazy and the wheel tax. We fought that hard, and we kept asking people to come and fight with us, and we kept asking folks to, get involved. And, we got called liars and all this stuff that we got called and made fun of for our petition and all these things. But now, people are starting to get those bills, and people are starting to get those, wheel tax little forms in the mail, and now they're seeing sticker shock, right? And so now it's, oh, well, why didn't anybody do anything about this? I didn't know about it. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. We got to do something about this. We got to vote for different people next time. All this stuff, which is all great, but you're a little late. And I hate to say I told you so, but we told you so. And we tried to stop it in the beginning. And that's what I'm saying. We have got to do a better job of getting out there and actually fighting this stuff before it happens. Because once it's happened, and you've heard the old saying a million times, once that tax is in there, it ain't going to go away. And it's the same thing with a lot of other things. Once it's there, it's so much harder to get away. And that's why we tried so hard to stop it in the beginning.
Yeah, and over in speaking of which, we're going into taxes now. Claiborne County had a big vote today. Do we have any results on that election about the wheel tax of $150, or should we say only $150?
Only 150.
No, it
I'm
said
not
100
on that.
pops.
I'm
It
not
said,
on that news site, so I can't tell you. I'm on Fox. I'm watching Fox for the
oh,
national thing.
so
So
the
I don't. I can try to find it. Hold on, let me find it. You
well
keep
the
talking. I'll look for it.
so the folks in Claiborne County basically were from my understanding, they tried to vote for a wheel tax back, I don't know, months and months ago. And of course, it didn't go through. The people rose up and said no, and they didn't pass. So then they came up with some kind of a plan where they were going to decrease the property tax in exchange to raise the wheel tax to $150 per vehicle. Okay, I kid you not. $150 per vehicle. Now, if you're a family of 3 or 4 people, and mom and dad is paying the bill for junior and their daughter to go to high school, that's a whopper of a wheel tax. But you heard the same rhetoric. They're just becoming as recognizable as the DC swamp with this kicking the can down the road. That's one of the rhetorics. We're going to raise your property taxes if you don't vote for the wheel tax. Oh, the wheel tax is the most fair tax. That's the biggest rhetoric we hear. And all three are complete lies. And the reason why they're lies is because there is no fair tax, for one. And the fair tax that they're saying is fair is they're trying to say that renters don't pay property taxes. Well, they actually do pay property taxes through their rent. And we actually have a Claiborne County group where one of the people got on there was arguing with us. I don't know if you saw that, Jason, but they were
I did.
arguing that that was a fair tax. And then somehow they let it slip in there that they own 20 properties.
And some of those are paid for by the federal government.
And
I've seen that.
Somehow that comment just kind of magically disappeared. Did you see that?
I didn't see it. That disappeared. But I thought that was interesting because I don't comment on anybody that comments or gets into discussions on our Facebook post and all that stuff. I don't comment on those things just because I don't want to get in those arguments. It's just I don't have time for it. Number one, number two, like some of our trolls that go back and forth with us all the time. Those I just don't. I ain't got time for it. That's it. And so, but I wanted to comment to her, and I say, so are you telling me you don't pay property taxes on any of those 20 properties that you own? And I'm sure that you've added those property tax costs into your rent, so you're making no sense with your argument there, lady. But I didn't. I kept my mouth shut.
Well, when a county commissioner tells you this is something y'all need to watch for in the upcoming budget cycle. When they say to you, we're going to raise your property taxes if you don't vote for the wheel tax, or if you don't support the wheel tax, we're going to raise your property taxes. Guess what they just did to you? They played you for a fool. You know why? Because they're going to raise your property taxes regardless. Okay. And smart people understand this, but for some reason, people, they don't think this through because maybe they're just busy or whatever. And it sounds so scary when the county commissioner is saying, well, we're going to have to raise your property taxes now. If y'all don't vote for this wheel tax, it's going to have to go up. Well, why are you all accepting that? I mean, the courthouse should be full of citizens saying heck to the no. I almost let it slip. Heck to the no. I was told the other day that was so old. Heck to the no. But
well, to answer your question there, Claiborne County has reported 44% on the Republican primary, 25% on the Democrat primary, and as far as the will tax referendum, 0% reporting.
Oh, I wonder if this is going to be one of those midnight votes.
So there's your answer for right now.
They might find some cemetery votes after midnight. All right, I'm going to try to be good. I hope to goodness, and I will say this, and this is for the sake of all of our people in Union County. Get ready. They're going to ask for either a property tax, a wheel tax, or a combination of both. And if this wheel tax passes in Claiborne County, I don't think it will, but if it does, you better buckle your seatbelts because they're going to be coming after y'all hot and heavy on both property and wheel taxes. And I would say wheel taxes the most because they got away with it last year, and they're emboldened. They will think they can get away with it again because, they don't see any pushback. So, the pushback that we had was effective. I mean, we kept it down. And I really believe that because of the people in this movement, it would have been a lot worse.
We didn't get nearly the raise that they were originally talking about because we were making such a stink, but they still did a raise. But like you said, watch this whole jail thing as it unfolds, and you already hear talking about, well, we're going to ask the state to pay for it since the state is trying to make us build it. And that's a bunch of horse pucky. That's just smoke and mirrors. That's just trying to get people off the trail right now. They don't want us to start hitting that too early because then it's going to make them look bad. But
well, we've got an exciting announcement, but we're not going to make it till next week about taxes and things that we're going to do as a movement that is going to really, I think, shake up things here in Union County as well as across the state. And so you all be sure to be on here next Tuesday because that big announcement's coming, and it's going to be very powerful. I think you guys will really enjoy it.
All right. Well, I'm excited too. What is it? No. You tell me on the bus tomorrow. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. We've talked about it.
Right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we actually spoke to some of our members, kind of our internal, closer members that talk with us a lot, and they love the idea. And I think it'll be powerful. I think we'll get a lot of support, and we'll do it on our time instead of their time. It'll be something we can do as we go along through the next few months. And I think we will be setting precedents across the state of Tennessee. That's how powerful this will be.
Well, one of the things that I've always said about government, and I'm going to tie it into what we do, Union County, especially, I've always said, and you've heard me say it many times, is that we're always reactive instead of proactive. And so with that being said, we're going to try to do the flip of that, and we're going to try to be proactive and get ahead of a lot of things. Then we are going to be reactive. That's our new goal, or my new goal anyway, is to be proactive instead of reactive.
Absolutely. And the thing that we're announcing next Tuesday, Jason, is proactive. Then people are just going to love it. I want to remind everybody that March the 26th is our mixer/meeting, and that will be at Hardee's. I don't know what the theme will be for that yet. We're just going to hang out at least for the next few meetings at Hardee's. We are looking for a venue to host us. We don't have any money coming in as a movement. We don't receive any money. We're just taking this out of our pockets and putting it together. So that's one of the reasons we've been modest about what money we spent through the winter months, because a lot of people are tight right now. And we're just trying to keep it as frugal as we can. But we would love to have someone possibly host us at their farm. They do this in Sumner County. They get invited. People host the meetings at their homes and farms and ranches and businesses and all kinds of stuff. And they move it around, and it's very exciting. So if anybody out there wants to be host to our meeting, just reach out to Jason and I, and we'll get it set up for the future months.
You mean that rumor that's going around in the county and we just got told about, well, was it at the dinner we got told, or was it one of our meetings we got told that we were being funded by some Democrat party or some junk? I was like, wait a minute. Where's this money at? I'm getting cheated.
Yeah. Well, whoever said that probably is guilty of all the above.
I don't remember where we got approached about it, but I thought that was hilarious. I think it was one of our meetings, actually. We got approached with that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Moving on. It's funny as heck. But anyway, I got sniffles tonight. Sorry about that. Do we want to get into our food bank issue, or do we want to get into the other issue?
Go ahead with your food bank issue. This ought to make some people mad, right? You're trying to get me fired up here, okay?
No, not us. No, not us.
We're a bunch of troublemakers, that's all.
So
good evening, everybody. Just say hi again. And I'll remind you, if you're not doing anything tomorrow, come on a trip with us to Nashville. If you're interested in going, just make a comment there. Everything, transportation, food's provided. Yep. So just in case we got a couple new folks that popped on.
And if you get a hold of us tonight before midnight, there's a good chance that we'll even pick you up at your house and return you to your house. So, but it has to be fairly close because we have to be there at 7 a.m. So we will
7 a.m. at Food City in Halls. Yep.
We'll be happy to get you a coffee and get you started, and you can get your pillow, sleep a little bit on the bus if you want to.
Massachusetts. Massachusetts.
Oh, good. Oh, I can't even say it. Massachusetts. I never could say that too well. Massachusetts. Okay. So last county commission meeting, basically one of our food banks, who does a wonderful job. They serve about 300 plus people per time that they have it open. I think it's once a month. I'm not sure, but they have a food bank, and they've been in this facility. It's a county building that the county has basically allowed them to use for the last few decades, Jason?
30 years, I believe, is what she said.
30 years. And they do a great service to the community. And basically over the last, since COVID and also since the economy is kind of tanking, all the food banks are saying that their numbers are up and that you're seeing people that normally don't see at these food banks. So you're seeing working class people, you're seeing moms and dads that normally go to food banks because people are struggling right now. They're having a hard time making ends meet. They're having a hard time just having enough money put together to buy all their groceries. And, they're having problems finding or buying medicine and all, it goes across the board. And then, of course, all this new taxes on top of it has made it just incredibly hard. And the month of January and February has been very tight on people on a limited income. And so these food banks, we have many in the county. I think we've got 8 or 10 in different churches. But it takes more than one. We've got, 20,000 people in the community. And I know not all of those people use, but we have a pretty good population for a small county. And so there is a need here. So last county commission meeting, Mayor Bailey had asked the woman that is over the food bank that uses, what's the name of that community center, Jason? Do you remember the name of it? Cedar
You
Grove.
would,
It's Cedar Grove.
right.
So Cedar Grove is in the 3rd district. It's also a building that's been used for voting. And there was a dump, or is a dump, sitting, I guess, adjacent to it. And every now and then, maybe once a month or twice a month, they may get somebody that wants to have a birthday party or whatever. So it's just one of those regular community centers. I think it's about maybe a little bit smaller in Paulette. I haven't really looked at it, but I've just noticed it from a distance because I've not been in it. So we're actually going to go up there and look at it here soon.
Trump wins Texas.
Oh, woohoo. God bless Texas. So anyway, she was asked by the mayor to come in because she got a brand new refrigeration system, freezers, refrigerator, whatever.
Walk-in freezer, refrigerator.
Yes. And they've been dependent on these old ragtag, rusted refrigerators that, were causing leaks and problems. And I think at one time they had roaches and things that were getting in there. Of course, they kept after all that stuff, but it was,
that dump.
Yeah, that didn't help. So, these are very clean people. They do a very good job. But they finally got a brand new, they didn't buy it. It was given to them. They were on some kind of a list where they were, so many people donated this brand new refrigeration system. And it's a $65,000 refrigeration system. And
Second Harvest is the one that's giving it to them.
Yeah. So for those of you who are familiar with Second Harvest, they do a great work. They actually donated to our food bank. So she had to get, I guess, electrician or someone to come in and determine the cost of maybe wiring it in or putting it in there. And the only expense they had, what was it? A pad?
The only thing that they asked the county to help with was pouring a concrete pad for, to be the flooring of the walk-in freezer cooler. And of course, it's going to have to be tied into the electrical system of the building. And Mayor Bailey said that the pad, and some of the commissioners said that the pad wouldn't cost hardly anything, and that one of the county maintenance folks is actually a electrician as well, and so that wouldn't cost much of anything to take care of either.
Right. And so basically the way that the donation goes to the food bank, there's charities that go, we have the animal shelter, the fire departments, the food bank. There's several charities each year that our tax dollars go to help because they see a need to serve we the people. That's something that we can benefit from more directly. And so they're one of them, but they're, from my understanding, their part of it is less than what everybody else is getting, because what the county does with them, they use a county building, which is the little community center, and have been for 30 years. They just basically pay to keep it, keep the electricity and, everything going where they got heat and air conditioning. And they, perform general maintenance on just like they would anyway. Okay. And it comes up to like $350 a month. So it's not, by the time the end of the year, it's not even a full $5,000. And that's basically all they get. Okay. And then they get the food donated, which costs nobody anything. And then the food is dispersed to people who need food. Okay. So she comes in and she's telling about the refrigeration, and they discussed everything we're talking about, that there will be no extra cost, that everything was just going to be, it's just a free refrigeration system and it was going to improve it. Well, lo and behold,
well, she actually said that She actually said that it would end up lowering the electricity bill for the county, because that's what the county's, like you said, the county's donation to the food bank is they pay the electricity bill, and it's called an in-kind contribution. So they're not actually paying, the donation to the food bank. They're actually just paying the bill, which they would be paying anyway. It might not be as high, maybe it would be. Who knows? But she said that they have 5 deep freezers, chest freezers, and I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 refrigerators, something like that. You can imagine that how much electricity those individual units run. And so by getting this brand new, it's not a used unit, it's not, taken down from something, it's a brand new unit. $65,000, $60,000+, given to the food bank. Ultimately, it's going to be attached to a building, and so therefore, I doubt that they're going to, take it down and take it with them if they moved and that kind of thing. So, sorry, I didn't mean to jump on your toes there. I was just trying.
You're fine. We froze there for just a second. So, right as everybody, the mayor just basically said he wanted everybody to know about it and the process, since the county was doing the in-kind, to kind of know what's going on, just a basic communication, just to let everybody know, to be on the same page. And so there's no cost really of any significant nature there. Nothing was going to change. It was just free stuff. And then Commissioner Moore stood up over at the end, and he is from the 3rd District, and he started voicing his concerns about using the government building for the food bank. And he said, well, I'm not against the food. I'm just paraphrasing. He says, I'm not really against the food bank. I just don't think we should be using government buildings for charity and that kind of thing, because that's just not, I just don't think that that's something government should play a part in. Okay. And they voted on it, and pretty much there were 4 or 5 people that voted along with Moore to not approve of this. Is that my understanding?
I don't remember who it was, and I didn't take a picture of it, so I'm not sure. I'm sure I could find it out.
I did. We're gonna pop that bad boy up next week. But anyway, so I know people are going to have a disagreement from time to time. We can't always agree with commissioners about their views on things. And, constitutionally speaking, government is not supposed to give to charity. So constitutionally, I understand it. Okay. So I don't want anybody to think, oh, she's being a socialist by saying this is wrong. But I have a problem with this, and we're going to get into that. But it did not stop there. They voted on this. It passed. She's getting the refrigeration because there's no cost, and the food bank continues. Well, a few days passes, and on February 29th, Commissioner Moore went to one of our Union County groups called We the People of Union County, Tennessee. He has every right to post on there just like anybody else. And he posts the following: I hope you folks will get on board and help us stop the giveaway of our Cedar Grove community building. All the other community buildings had a facelift inside and out. Ours was outside only. I guess now it will be under control of this bunch of socialists who serve people outside our county as well. Boy, did that cause a stink. And it's been seen by 121 people, probably the majority here in the county, that have not commented, but there have been a few of us who have commented. So there was nobody really said a whole lot in response to it for a day or two, and then it started heating up, and then somebody else came on and said they agreed with him. And basically, this is where, I guess, the rubber meets the road. This is where I have an issue. I do not have an issue with the principle of, it's not constitutional. You've heard us talk about the old principle of it's not yours to give, as highlighted by Davy Crockett when he was in the Senate, when he was reminded by one of his constituents that the government was not supposed to be in the charity business. Okay, I get all that. Okay, what I have a problem with is how this was voiced, not what was voiced, how it was voiced. So you raise people's taxes in a very economically challenged time, in a time that it's going to be very hard for people. You raise their taxes going into a recession. And then after you've raised everybody's taxes and people are feeling the pain of those taxes being increased, then you start on a food bank and you say, you know what? I don't think it's really constitutional to have have that in that building. Well,
you bunch of socialists.
You might be a socialist, right? So I don't have a problem with the argument. What I have a problem with is how this charity food bank, who is feeding people, who is a service to the community, how they were cherry picked out of all of the other charities that also receive county funds.
More funds, you might add.
The same people that raised your taxes now want to cherry pick and decide that a food bank doesn't need to be in there anymore. Okay. And basically voice their displeasure with it, saying, lying on the Constitution, saying, oh, we shouldn't be in that business. Well, you're right. We should have never been in that business. But when you start with the food bank, that's not a, let's just say, diplomatic way of starting your your movement to tell government that they need to be out of the charity business. Because guess what? We've got fire departments that rely on these funds. We've got the Humane Society that rely on these funds. What else have we got? The Rescue Squad. There's several other little charities they give to, and they have to have their documentation. They have to bring it to the county commission and be approved, and they have to go through these stages. Okay, that was actually improved under Mayor Williams, if you remember that. So they have to have their stuff together, and they have to make sure that they're a sound organization or nonprofit. So are you all going to, if you're going to take this stance at the beginning of a recession when people need food and start cherry picking the food bank, what are you going to do when everybody rises up and says, well, you know what? You're right. We need to start being constitutional around here. And we're just going to say, you know what, Mr. Moore, let's just defund them all, because you're right. We got to cut back. How do you think that is going to hit the majority of these organizations and the people they serve? What say you, Jason?
Well, my issue is, number one, the argument is, that's a county-owned building and we shouldn't be doing it, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, it may be a valid issue, but at the same, he even went further and said, well, the churches should be doing it, and all that stuff. Okay, well, that building is located in, not like separate from, but in a convenience center. So there's, the trash compactors and all those kinds of things. And it's been well documented. The mayor even said that building's hardly ever rented because people don't want to go to the dump, so good reason or not a good reason doesn't matter. At least that building is being used for something, and something positive in most people's minds, except for apparently some of these non-socialists.
But voted tax increases,
right? And to be clear, also the same county commissioner that told people that if they didn't like how he saw things, then they just needed to move out of the county. if you remember that. But so if you want to argue about the losing the rent because these folks are in there, well, you're solving your problem. You're taking those freezers out. You're putting them in a walk-in freezer and what have you. So it will be out of the building. It'll be out of the way. So guess what? You can start renting that building again because I'm sure they can put a lock on that freezer. You ain't got to worry about it no more. So what's the issue? You're going to be able to rent it again. You're going to be able to improve it. You want to talk about, oh, it didn't get its fair share of improvements. First of all, I'd like to know who paid for those improvements. I'm pretty sure it was probably us taxpayers. Oh, wait, maybe it was a free grant. It was free money, maybe. I don't know. But either way, it was still our money, okay?
Yeah.
And so I get where he's coming from a little bit, okay? A little bit. That we shouldn't be allowing outside groups to use these county buildings and blah, blah, blah. I get that just a little bit. What I don't get is why after 30 years we have an issue with it. It should, and he even made the comment, we sold the county the property for that. Well, if it was going to be an issue of what that building was going to be used for, no matter what it was going to be used for, maybe you shouldn't have sold the property if it was that big of a deal. And you go even further than that. You can say, well, we're not letting the other county buildings be used for food pantries and all this kind of stuff, which would be a lie because the Paulette building gets used for a food pantry. They just don't store stuff there in freezers. They bring it all in and give it all out all within a day or two. And so that argument is invalid. Saying that we don't allow other food pantries to use the buildings. So I don't understand why it's an issue. My question ultimately, as it always is, what is the real reason behind it? And that's what I'd like to know. What is the real reason behind it? And I say that again because this is now an issue after 30 years. It's not like they've been there for 3 weeks. They've been there for 30 years. Why now is it an issue? Number one. Number two, they like talking about free money, free grants, free this, free that. It's a free unit, $60,000 unit, right? It's not costing them a dime. It's not costing them a match. Most of these grants we get, that's free money, normally cost us some kind of a match. So it's not costing us anything. The mayor's already said, and several county commissioners have already said, the pad is basically going to cost nothing to put it on. And we have an electrician on staff that can hook it up. Not an issue. In the grand scheme of things, very minute amount. What's the issue? And again, I'll say again, you'll be able to rent your building out again and use it for birthday parties and whatever else, anniversary parties, family reunions, whatever you want to use it, because those 5 freezers and those refrigerators will be out of the way. And guess what? The electric bill's coming down. So I don't see what the issue is. And again, to clarify, County Commission did approve this to proceed. So it's going to happen, I guess, unless he raises a big enough stink and gets it brought back up or something. But either way, I'm not going to call him an idiot. I'm just going to say it's an idiot issue. Okay? It's an idiot issue. Okay? Kind of like the 911 board stuff. It was an idiot issue. It should have never happened. It should never have been an issue. Okay? I did not call him an idiot. I said it was an idiot issue. You can make your own opinion on the other. Okay? But
don't get as many haters as me now, and then we'll have to be in competition.
Well, like I said, I didn't call him a name. I said that the issue was an idiot. It's an idiotic issue. Should never have been an issue. But here, let's go a little further. Let's talk about, like you said, if we're going to call out one charity and say, we can't do this anymore, to be fair, you got to be fair to all of them. If we can't do that one, somebody better call the animal shelter and say, we're not going to give you no more money. I'm sorry. I know you showed up to county commission last time when the budget, and we tried to take your money away then. I know you said you had $130,000 in the bank and you like keeping that on savings and blah, blah, blah. But, we couldn't have a food pantry in one of our county buildings because it was just so unfair, because we don't need to feed people that are, struggling nowadays, and we just can't do that. So to be fair, Miss Animal Shelter, we can't give you no more money. Oh, and then we've got to call the Little League, and we got to say, oh, we don't care about you children playing Little League. We're going to have to take your money away. And you're going to have to call the fire departments because they're charities too. You're going to have to call them and say, well, we don't really care about protecting, the citizens of Union County. I'm sorry, fire departments. We don't give you very much money anyway in the grand scheme of things as far as what you do and what it costs to do what you do and protecting lives and saving lives. And matter of fact, our very own mayor got saved by some of these fire department workers and firefighters and such. But I'm sorry, we just can't give you any more money. Because we've got to be fair, because it wasn't fair for a food pantry to be in one of our county buildings. And we can go to the Veterans Society, the American Legion or whichever one it is. I know they combine now. We can't give y'all any more money, so I'm sorry. We don't care about our veterans anymore either. I can just keep going with all the money that we give away, and we just want to complain about nothing.
And it's like I can't believe that someone that sits on a county commission would start with a freaking food bank. I'm sorry. I just don't get it. I mean, I could see them starting, if they wanted to start the constitutional argument that it's not ours to give, that they're going to suddenly get holy and not raise taxes anymore, and now we're just going to clean up all the waste and everything, instead of going after the departments where there's a lot of expenses that we probably don't know about, and looking at some of those line items. They start going after the things that actually help the citizens of our county. Imagine a world like that, and it's right here in Union County.
It just shows what the focus is. The focus is not on the important issues. The focus is always something to distract you from something else. And that's the way I look at it. It's nonsense. Like I said, it's an idiotic issue to even be an issue. And it should never happen. You don't have to agree with it. You don't even have to like me for saying it. I don't care, but that's how it is. It's just a non-issue. It's a non-issue.
I talked with several people. There were some churches that took note of this discussion on this group. And, the church members, they reached out to me, and I saw some of their conversations about it. And, they were like, these people have no clue what they're talking about. Their churches are already giving to charity. And they reminded this person that was saying that it was up to the church. Well, yeah, it is up to the church if you're going by biblical principles to take care of the poor and the needy. Okay, that's all biblical. Well, this person was saying that this was the church's responsibility, and was naming names of the church in that community. I mean, actually naming names. Okay. And instead of saying, well, why don't we, she was, in the church too, why don't we, the church, because churches are not defined by buildings and walls. Okay. The church is us. Let's solve the problem. Let's try to find this food bank a building. If we're going to suddenly get constitutional here in Union County and start cutting waste and things that are not ours to give, okay, then why don't we as a church come together and try to help find a placement for this food bank and get them out of the government building and help them have the funding? Because, you don't want somebody to pay and lose money because they're putting together a service. But there was none of that. It was all about, it should be up to those churches over there in that community. They're the ones that need to do this, instead of saying, well, we're the church. Why don't we come together and solve this problem? But
I want to point out one more thing that I think is very odd about this situation. The county commissioner that is so against this issue is a 3rd district county commissioner. The county commissioner that made the motion to approve the building and the funding, the pad and all this stuff for this refrigerator freezer unit to go on, was a 3rd district county commissioner. So what's going on in the 3rd district?
And one's a Democrat and one's a Republican.
In name only, apparently. The Democrat is the one that made the motion to approve it. The Republican is the one that hates food banks, apparently.
Well, and the one that approved it voted against the tax increases, and the one that was against the food bank voted for taxes. Isn't that ironic?
It's just weird to me. Like I said, something's rotten in Denmark. I smell it. There's something wrong. Does he want the property back? Because he made it a point to say, my family's the one that sold that property. Okay, you want it back? Is that what your goal is? What's your play here? Because your argument isn't a very good one. And just to update you on Claiborne County election, 81% is in on the GOP primary, 44% is in on the Democratic primary, and 0% on the wheel tax.
I'm sure that will take all night, and it might take 2-3 weeks.
Well, I mean,
I wonder if Fox News has called it.
Well, I don't think that they're going to get into a wheel tax debate. I'm on WATs where I'm looking. But, the federal stuff I'm looking on Fox. The other one I'm looking on WAT. But anyway, so back to our non-issue discussion.
That's going to get us investigated, but okay, whatever.
I've been investigated by better people. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and folks, we're calling this out because, a lot of times people, they don't know this is happening. That's why we go to the county commission meetings to point out things like this, because you all need to know what's going on. And we've also got another county commissioner that has been absent to a lot of meetings, probably more so than some, but we're keeping up with that as well. And we'll talk about that next week.
Colorado's Trumps.
Colorado. Ooh.
Colorado.
I was going to look on the Claiborne Progress site and see if it had anything on the wheel tax. I doubt it, but let me see if it's got any returns. Well, do you have anything as far as other issues that we're going to talk about tonight? Or?
I want to talk just for a second to clarify the whole 911 board mess. So if you've not heard the county commission meeting, we've been talking about the 911 board's decision to no longer do the CPR, or TCPR is the technical term, because it stands for telephone CPR. We've been talking about that for a little while. Well, we've been raising Cain, and some of the county commissioners got involved. And of course, I went to Dennis Powers, in Nashville, and a because it's a very important issue. It's about life-saving measures and all those things that we have said before. So, in this past county commission meeting, we actually, some of the county commissioners asked the attorney for the state 911 board to come have a discussion with county commission, because these county commissioners, some of them knew they were being lied to, knew that this 911 board was trying to hoodoo some things and all this kind of stuff. So they wanted the state to come in. And actually, if you remember correctly, I did a short little live that I got verification from the state, Dennis Powers, our representative here in Union County, who did confirm that Union County was out of compliance, and he was sending some messages to the 911 board and local government officials that they needed to get it fixed, and so on and so forth. So in this 911 or county commission meeting, this attorney came and he said, answered county commissioners' questions and all these things. And he said that, yes, our 911 board was not in compliance. And, he gave them instructions that they needed to get in compliance and, all these things that he said. And of course, the 911 board director is Sheriff Billy Breeding, and he came up there to defend himself. And it was back and forth. Well, we adopted a new policy, and so now we're in compliance, and we've told our dispatchers that they've now got to do this because it's state law, and yada yada yada, cover my own hind end. But my issue with the state guy, he was asked, is Union County now in compliance? And if Billy, of course, jumped in and said, yeah, we're in compliance. And the attorney's like, well, they say they're in compliance, so they're in compliance. That's number one, my issue. He never said that he investigated, he looked into anything like that. He just said, because he was even asked, how do you know they're in compliance? And his answer was, well, they say they're in compliance. They told us that they're now in compliance. So we take them at their word. They're in compliance. Well, we already know that they done lied. In January county commission meeting, that same director of the 911 board, Sheriff Breeding, supplied county commission with a letter. And I have the letter. I have a copy of it. It supplied county commission with that letter and said they were in compliance. It was a lie. He knew, they knew, 911 board. That's a good number right there. Wonder why WAT ain't updating. But anyways, so they already knew they weren't in compliance. They knew they were violating state law when they gave county commission that letter. And for the state to come in and say, hey, we're just going to say they're in compliance because they tell us they're in compliance. It's ridiculous. There should be some more education, more training, more something over there to make sure that we're actually following state law. That's my issue. And to say, okay, well, we got caught with our hand in the cookie jar. We got caught red-handed by violating law because we had some folks that actually paid attention that, now we're going to do the right thing and we're going to do it the right way. Well, you take that even further. The 911 board, to be clear, is a separate entity from Union County government. So they run their own thing. They have their own finances and all that. But Union County government, it's another one of them charities we give money to. We got to take that away too. No, 911 board, you're no longer going to get your $130,000 a year, whatever that amount is. I know it's over 100,000. You're no longer going to get that money because we've got to be fair. We can't do the food pantry. Can't give you money either. Anyways, I digress. So, because the county gives them a donation, the county has every right to know their finances. That's part of how the system works. And so the county commission, some of the commissioners specifically, asked a month or two ago how much money the 911 board had in the bank. And the answer they got was just over $100,000. Well, they knew that was a lie because, again, it's a requirement that 911 has to have in their bank account at least $500,000 in case something goes wrong. Like, tower goes down, anything goes wrong. They have to have a certain amount of money to lean back on, right? And so these county commissioners, light bulb went off. We're being hoodooed here. We're being lied to. And so while they were on the spot at this county commission meeting, it got brought up. Oh, how much money do you all actually have in your bank account? Well, the sheriff stuttered around and I don't know and this, that, and the other. Well, Andrew Reed is the financial officer of the 911 board. And so the sheriff turned to him and said, how much money we got? Well, I think it's 1.6 million. And then it was, well, it might be 1.3 million. Well, you're the financial officer, certainly know how much money you got in the bank. That's your job. And so it's just that, again, I use this term again. There's something rotten in Denmark. Why did we want to put citizens' lives at risk? Number one. Why do we keep lying to county commission when they ask simple questions? Why did we supply a letter to county commission when we knew we weren't in compliance, but we lied about it and even put it in writing and said that we were in compliance? And why do we continue to think that the citizens of Union County should be disserved the way that y'all try to do it? And why do you think that the citizens of this county are idiots and we're not going to find out?
You pretty much laid it on the line there.
It's just, and again, I go back to what I said earlier. It's because we have not done our job in the past for so long that they're just used to getting away with stuff like this. And so they didn't think it was going to be a non-issue. It should have never have been an issue. I'm not even going to go back into that. Your turn.
Well, I had to get a drink. Sorry about that. I had to get my drink of choice, Mountain Dew, if you can see it. But yeah,
it's not that poppy drink no more.
No poppy drink. I had my Chick-fil-A unsweet tea, but I'm out. It was drained dry there. So on the
a little side note on your Chick-fil-A there, the pastor at the church I go to, he calls that Christian chicken.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, that's Christian chicken there.
So the guy from the state that came in, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but the dude from the state in the suit, he basically, from what I could gather, said when asked about the, I guess the board policy, they said they couldn't find it or whatever. And everybody was like, really? How can you all not have that? And they said, well, if we did have it, we can't find it. And then someone asked him about, should they have a board policy? And then he said, well, the state actually, and I read this online, it said the state actually covers them on that. They have to go by the state, all the state information as far as the agency, and the policies and whatnot. But that it was best practice for them to also have one. Is that what you heard, Jason?
Yeah. Well, I think it was Don Flatford that asked for the bylaws. Somebody asked for the bylaws.
The bylaws are the yes.
they said that this is the other thing that's kind of funny. They said that they couldn't find any bylaws, but they went and they found some minutes from some meetings and some old files and some old notebooks and this, that, and the other. And yeah, one of the Miss Beeler says what I'm saying right now. They come up with this. Oh, it's all from all the way back in 1982, and then Commissioner Simmons jumps in and says, "How are these minutes from 1982 when the board wasn't even done till the 90s?" Again, something rotten in Denmark. Somebody's trying to pull some wool over somebody's eyes.
Gee, I was a child back then. That tells you how old that crap is.
So I mean, why is this so hard? I mean, it's again not. It should have never been an issue. It should have never even been brought up. It was a state law already. It was to save people's lives, and you said that you weren't going to do it. I mean, it makes no sense. And like I said, should have never been an issue. Period. Never.
Well, I don't even understand why there was a reason to cover up anything. I mean,
well, ultimately, it's because, in my opinion, this is my opinion, so take it for what it's worth. Because I have the training records, right? It's because, my opinion, and no knock on the dispatchers, but the majority of the employees were not trained. I think that was the issue, and they were trying to cover it up. And
why were they not trained, though? I mean, why would you not train your employees?
Why would you cheat on a test? I don't know.
I mean, this just don't make any sense. There's money. It's not like there's no money to do it. So why weren't they trained?
I don't have the answer for that question. Like I said,
I don't understand
there's
the
16
here.
There's 16 employees, I believe, in dispatch, if I remember correctly. And again, I'm not knocking the dispatchers at all, because they do awesome job, and we appreciate them and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not knocking them at all. But I believe there's 16 employees, and only 5 of those were actually trained to do the things that they're supposed to be done. And actually, one of the ones that was actually fighting to have this done, if you watch the meeting, I'm not going to name names, but if you watch the meeting, when this came down and the stink started happening, right, when we got wind of it and we start making some noise about it, she mysteriously got her training done 2 days later. So what's that tell you? But but
I mean,
according to the 911 director, all the employees are now trained, according to him. So I guess we need to get somebody to go pull the training records again and see if that's true.
Now,
and I don't know why that. I mean, it's public record.
Is the site that you're pulling this up on, is it kept up to date? Is it the actual state, or is it?
I never said it was a site.
Or is it like an election commission?
These records look. These records came from 911. Somebody at my source went and actually got records from 911. So they came from the source itself. It wasn't no mysterious website. It wasn't no black magic. It wasn't no voodoo. It was actually records we got from the source.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully what they pulled, though, was all were there. I don't know how they pulled them, but I'm assuming computers, but
no, they pulled them in person.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, was it paperwork where they have to keep it on hand, or was it something on a website that's live in accordance to training?
Well, they should be every time. Look, when fire departments, police departments, whether it's volunteer or what have you, every time you do a training, you get some kind of a certificate showing that you did this training. So it's not like you shouldn't have a record of it. And most of the time, I dare say 90% of the time, most of those times it gets emailed to you, the certificate does, so you can print it off. Or something like that. Sometimes they get mailed to you, but normally, even when they get mailed to you, you get some kind of a paper copy in the email, or right at the end of your exam or whatever, or whenever you get done with that training. Normally, you have some way to show that you actually have that kind of a record. So why is it so hard? And like I said, the 911 director did say that all of those dispatchers are now trained. So again, we just like I say all the time, we got to trust but verify.
Right. Now, we have a comment, Jason, from Trish Hensley. Hello, Trish. Welcome to our podcast. Need to come see you more, or we need to see each other more, have some lunch sometime. I miss Trish. She's a great gal. She says, well, my opinion is back before this administration, the dispatchers were trained and certified. But you also have to realize that most of the dispatchers then were part of fire departments, rescue squad, sheriff's department, etc. So they knew how to do what they needed to do. Some very good comments there, Trish.
That's she says she still have tons of certificates from all of her classes. I have, I'm a pack rat, so I have all my certificates from when I was a police officer, even when I went through training as a bondsman. I still have all those laying around, and I get yelled at all the time. Why don't you throw that stuff away? You don't need it no more. Well, you don't ever know when you're gonna need it. So I still have it.
Might need it for a time like this. So yeah, I've got my paperwork.
Right.
So I think, and I know they have these meetings, every month or so?
No, 911 board. If you're talking about 911 board, they just have them here and there. And I think the next one, somebody... I think it's in April or May. It's not an every month thing.
Quarterly, probably quarterly.
The reason I'm so hesitant to say an actual date is because one of the boards that I've went to, and I go to most of these meetings, and they all get piled up in my brain. One of them's not even meeting until October. So, I don't remember which one. April, Miss England says she thinks April as well, but it's not an every month. They kind of do what they want, I guess. Again, they have no bylaws that says they have to meet anytime.
The public can go to these meetings. I just want everybody to know this, in case anybody wants to check out. And if anybody wants to go to the 911 board meeting, I'll go. If you decide that in April you'd like to go check it out and talk to some of the board members and kind of get a feel for what they do, and check it out for yourself. I think we have a county commissioner on that board. We have, of course, a sheriff. We've got some.
A little side note about the 911 board and that county committee. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. From my understanding from sources, I'll say this. She's not very well liked on this board. and she's been asking too many questions on this board. And so they schedule these meetings and they forget to tell her about these meetings sometimes. And sometimes they just up and cancel them on her. And this is some stuff. But yeah, interesting stuff. Trump won Minnesota, and I got a good one for you. American Samoa. Biden has lost to a guy by the name of Jason Palmer.
God, Jason Palmer.
Yeah.
I know a Jason Palmer. He's local.
So I think that's pretty funny that, the Democrats are falling apart a little bit.
Yeah.
Somebody
sent me some stuff about RFK. He's Robert Kennedy. He's running as an independent. I don't know if you have anything in on him or if he has any opposition, but I know he was the front runner, or he was being set up as a front runner for the independents. Several people have told me they would vote for him because they don't like Trump and they don't like Biden and they don't like the other choices. I have heard RFK talk about several things, but I've also heard him flip-flop. So I'm not, he does have, when you hear him talk about something, he sounds very impassioned and, like he really cares about the people and whatnot. He's a populist. Okay. But on other things, he's kind of got a little wishy-washy at times. So it's kind of like the thing with Elon Musk. You kind of like the guy, but you don't know if you can trust him. I don't trust anybody hardly anymore as far as politics. But, there's things about all candidates that upset us all. I mean, there's some things about Trump that, you're like, gosh, I wish he'd hush or wish he'd quit those mean tweets or, there's things that irritate people about Trump. There's things that irritate people about, there's a lot of things that irritate about Biden. Where do you start? But, there's other candidates out there for you folks that don't like any of these front runners. There's other candidates out there. And I know we have a lot of libertarians that follow our site. Just become familiar with the candidates. Check them out. Don't always trust mainstream media or media in general. Do your own research. Dig your own records. Listen, it's all public record. If y'all want to know about a candidate, follow the money. There is actually a site called followthemoney.com. It's a really useful political site for those doing opposition research. I've used it a lot in my campaigns. You can go on there and type in a politician and find out exactly who is funding them, what special interest donate to them, what PACs donate to them, and you will be shocked at some of the Republicans that call themselves Republicans being funded by big pharma, big tech, all these big corporations, the ones that have been kind of riding on the wings of fascism. You'll find them all in there. The ones that were connected to the COOF and COVID vaccines, all that stuff is in those sites. So followthemoney.com is a good place to start. If you want to know who is donating to a candidate, that is a great place to get your information.
That's it. Again, we've always said, even since the start of these podcasts, we always told everybody, don't believe what we say. Go find out yourself. Not that we're going to lie to you or anything like that, but we want you to understand that you've got to do your own due diligence and you've got to make your own decisions and you've got to get out there and find out the facts yourself.
One thing I want to do an appeal as we start to close down for the evening, because we both got to get up early tomorrow. I want everybody to start thinking and praying about county commission and school board candidates. Now, we've already pretty much into the school board, but for 26, we've got several districts. We've got, what, 7 districts there, Jason? We're going to be vetting candidates for those races. Once people start trying to get into those races, we will be vetting them, meaning we will be interviewing them. We actually had a candidate come up to us the other night running for mayor in one of our districts that, wants us to kind of, I guess you'd say network or whatever, but we offered to interview him. There's some constitutional questions that we have for these candidates, and if they're not willing to do it, that tells us a lot right there about who they are, because they don't want any tough, a lot of them don't want any tough questions. And we've actually had people ask us, why don't you all have a debate? Why don't you all sponsor a debate? And that is not out of the question. We have, we've just, it's hard to put these things together, when you just have a few people working most of the time and everybody works. So if you all want to debate, and if you all want to have new candidates, we need your help. That's why I said I want you all to consider inviting if you want to run, we'd love to have you too. But if it's somebody in your community that wants to run, or they've talked about it, it could be a family member. It could be anybody that's talked about running for local office, especially for county commission. We would love for you to bring these people and invite them to these events that we're having. And our next event is the last Tuesday of this month. What date did I say, Jason? That would be, you got a while to do this. It'll be Tuesday, March 26th at Hardee's at 7 p.m. That's what these mixers are for. They're for people to not only to network, but also for us to find candidates to run for local office. Because in order for us to ever have representation for we the people, we have to have real people in these seats. Not that the people aren't in there, they're real, but what I mean by that, they're not exactly the conservatives that they have said they are. And so we've got, as a result, tax increases. We've got regulation now. We've got all these big government movers and shakers that are just trying to make our county bigger and bigger. And if you're in another county, you see the same things. We're the Tennessee Freedom Coalition, so we're not just here in Union County, but Union County is like, I would call it an excellent model to understand government cronyism. It's a small county. It's very tribal, like most counties are that are rural. And you've got the Republican Party pretty much in control here. But the Republican Party is often not represented by conservatives who are actually as conservatives as we would want them to be. Now, they may view themselves as conservative, but, when you've got your leaders in your Republican Party behind big tax increases and behind big government spending and growth, you got a problem. And that's exactly what we're seeing here in Union County. And we've witnessed it with our own eyes over the last few years.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'll throw this offer out like we have at every election time. If you're a candidate, you want to be interviewed, reach out to us. It's open to anybody and everybody that's wanting to run for some office. It's open to each and every one of you. It's not only if you're Republican, only if you're Democrat. We will interview anybody if you're running for office. You got a little cat above your shoulder? No.
Probably do. Yeah.
But we were accused in 22 of not making that offer to everybody, and that was a lie, because we made it to everybody. We had several candidates that actually took us up on that offer, and I just when you said that, that just crossed my mind And I actually pulled that video up if I wanted to play it, because I have it.
Oh, cool.
But,
play it. Can you play it on the...
Hold on one second. Let me get my volume up here. It's hard to hear. Did you hear that?
I could hear bits and pieces, but I don't know what everybody else heard.
Well, that was recorded on election night outside the courthouse. But the word was, this group has invited anybody to be endorsed and anybody to be interviewed. And that was just not true. And which is a lie, because we invited, and those of y'all that have been around the podcast, long enough, know that every time we did a podcast, we asked anybody that wanted to be interviewed or even considered to be endorsed to reach out, and we'd be more than happy to do that. And we did not endorse everybody that we interviewed. We interviewed several that we did not endorse, and we endorsed several, and the majority of everybody we endorsed won. So, say what you want, but that was just a flashback to the past.
Well, another thing is, and I want people to remember this, and I've said this many, many times. We are not about personalities. Our movement is not about personalities. Your local parties often make this about personalities, whether they're Democrat or Republican. It's almost like a competition type thing where they're mad or they're upset because you embarrassed such and such person, or you brought out such and such details about what they were doing, or talked about something they voted on that you didn't like, and therefore you're attacking that person. That's not who we are, folks. They may view it as an attack on them personally, but it's not. When we disagree with an elected official, it's not about the personality, it's about the policy. And so even like tonight, when we talked about one of our commissioners that did not want the food bank to be funded anymore, that, he started standing on a principle, which I agree with the principle. I'm not against him personally. I think it was a bad decision to bring that particular thing up before he brought up the other charities. But I'm not against the principle, and I'm not against him. But what I am against is when you bring up a principle, you have to realize that when you make a stand, it also is not just something you can narrow it down to play within your own judgment of what should be affected and what should not. So a lot of times politicians will cherry pick certain things because of a certain principle, but when it comes down to actually enacting the principle itself, they either back down because they realize they put their foot in their mouth, or they don't get it and they just continue until they've committed political havoc on themselves and everybody else. So the principles stand when the world's on fire, and the personalities are here today, gone tomorrow. And in politics, it's all about principle. It's not about personalities. You've heard a cult of personality, and if you base something on someone's personality, it's not going to have it'll die with that person. One example of that is MAGA. One example is, it's not about Donald Trump in that movement. It's about MAGA. The people, we the people, are the ones that have to carry that movement forward far beyond Mr. Trump and his lifespan. And he was very wise in that he realized that his life is short, but there's generations to come that will carry out those principles of America First way beyond his lifetime. And so that's just an example of having something that goes beyond someone's personality. It's about the principle that is behind the MAGA movement that made it so successful.
That's it. And I agree. And I'm out of Dr. Pepper, so that means thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you joining us on this surprise podcast. Hope everybody was surprised. We had some a good amount of folks on here. Thanks for your interaction. And we hope to see some of you in the morning, 7 a.m. at the Food City and Halls. Take that bus ride down to Nashville. We look forward to having some good food with you, good conversations, and learn a little bit about school choice and the functions of our Tennessee government. And so, like I said, hope to see you in the morning. And if not, we'll see you next time on the podcast or out and about and all that kind of stuff. And
if you are coming in the morning down there, just look for the big charter bus. It's parked there right next to the Food City entrance on the side where the furniture store is. And you'll see everybody, of course, parked around it. So if you decide to come down in the morning, come as you are. You don't have to dress up or anything like that. Come hungry because they'll feed you all day. They even have snacks and stuff on the bus and drinks. So you don't have to worry about starving or anything like that, and just enjoy a day with other conservatives fighting for our children.
That's it. And with that, remember to pray for me. I'll pray for you. God bless you, and good night.
Good night.